Hello, Friday World News, and let's start with the Office for Budget Responsibility in the UK, set up to be independent and tell the world how the UK really is doing in fiscal responsibility. This is for July 2011. The first thing to note is that's a bloody shocking colour for the cover. Anyway, not important. Look, on the second page we get that reassuring crest. That's better, isn't it? Third page, we get number 2 I've highlighted. In our March 2011 EFO, which is the Economic Fiscal Outlook, we forecast that public sector net borrowing, that's the government borrowing, would shrink from 11% of GDP in 2009-10 to 1.5% in 2015. That's jolly good, isn't it? Shrinking from 11% down to 1.5% as the economy recovers. And as the government's fiscal consolidation is implemented. So all that's got to happen is there's got to be a recovery and the government sticks to its guns on this austerity shit. Number 3, in this fiscal sustainability report, we consider the outlook beyond this medium-term forecast horizon and ask whether the UK public finances are sustainable over the long term, and a very worthy thing to be doing, and they couldn't have done it any better. I think it's a very good document, PDF link of course, but anything long term is so much based on what happens short term, because that can really knock your ideas well off. But they've got a lot in here. One of the things they're taking into account is this next chart, 1D, which is from the European sources, so America isn't in here, so these are European countries, but basically what we have is retired people as a percentage or ratio to working people. The burgundy colour that they favour in this report is 2010, nowish, and if you go right down the middle of those towards the end of the burgundies, it comes out to about 25. That means there are about 25 retired people for every 100 working people. But projection out to 2060, it's a long way out, but the projections start becoming horrible. Even right at the top, Ireland, which is the shortest, you can see it's doubled, and it's getting on for 50 retired for every 100 workers. Obviously the trouble comes in at the bottom with Portugal, Spain, Italy and Germany, where over 60 retired people are just languishing out there watching television or whatever they have in 2060 for 100 working. That's an awful heavy burden to put on the 100 working, 60 not working. All sorts of things like that this UK doc is taking into account. Next one I've just brought up is the UK oil and gas revenues. Now down at the bottom there in grey are petroleum revenue taxes, which we know are very high in the UK, but they're projected to slope off to almost nothing as cars become so very economical and everybody goes over to electric and things. And do I detect on that chart that they're almost turning negative underneath there in 2030 and things? Anyway, leave that. The offshore corporation tax on offshore drilling for oil is tapering off, but you know, still quite a healthy whack. I think that's because they must be putting the taxes up, because this next chart, 1F, is UK and oil gas reserves and production, North Sea basically. That horrible colour that they favour behind is just cumulative production, so we can forget that. It's the black line that we should be looking at, and that's actual projected production, and we can see it peaked in the late 90s for UK oil, North Sea oil. That nipple is up in the late 90s, and it's downhill right to now. And then you've got the EFO forecast, but that's based, and the future ones are based on a decline rate of 5%. Offshore decline rates are much higher than that. It'll be over 10%, and that black line will drop to the bottom much quicker, probably around 2020. Towards the end, we get a few conclusions. I've highlighted 465 at the top there because I'm going to go straight on to 466. The analysis in this chapter, etc., etc. But what they're basically pointing out, that things I'm going to read here are basically going to reduce the tax intake for the government, because people will be moving into positions in the future where they will naturally be paying less tax, to the extent of £1,130 per household in today's money in 20 years' time, paying less tax just because of the way things work out. And some of the things that work out that way to make it that way: fuel duties. You'll pay less in fuel duty because you'll be using less fuel. VED receipts, that's vehicle excise duty. Car licensing will drop because won't be paying it, because you'll have smaller cars and electric cars, so you won't pay the excise duty. This is a laugh, isn't it, that they won't put the taxes up just to make up the difference. Anyway, that's what they're saying. UK and oil gas revenues from offshore drilling will go down from 0.9% now to about 0.1% in later. Tobacco duties will go down, obviously, because people won't be doing any smoking, or, that'll all reduce away, making the tax take go down. But this is an up one. Receipts from the climate change levy, that's something to look out for. The carbon price floor, etc., whatever they call it, are going to go up from 0.1% now to 0.3% by 2030. So you can see they're short on revenue grabbing. And as you note there, 465, we move on to 1H, which is 466, immediately after it. Our analysis of income tax, because that's obviously the biggie, and NICs, which is National Insurance Contributions, Social Security Contributions, shows that the average tax rate would go up, if income shifts towards the top end of the income distribution. I'll leave you to read this for yourself again. But so, if the recent trend of increasing income inequality were to continue in the future, it would potentially drive an increase in personal tax receipts. More inequality, more tax receipts. Conversely, a reversal of income inequality would lead to a fall in revenues. I'll leave you to read that for yourself. But it is what you thought I just said. Right, let's get out to the across the Atlantic to America and go back to 22nd of February 2009. And if you follow the link, there's a video embedded where Obama pledges to cut the US deficit in half by the end of his first term, reducing the deficit from 1.2 trillion to 533 billion. Right, next. 3. These are the fiscal deficits through the years, and you can see that 1.2 that they were talking about there actually came in at 1.4, and the projected for 2012 at the moment is still 1.1 trillion, over twice as much as Obama promised it would be. And that 2012 is not nearly nailed on at all. I would just about be betting that it will be nearer to 2 trillion than 1 trillion. In other words, 1.6 would be not a bad bet for 2012. But who knows? They're still faffing around. But here he goes. Here's another one. Now, in this one, US public debt annual percentage change, spot the negative number. There is one. All right, yeah, there it is at the year 2000, -2, where the budget public debt actually did go down. But reading through these, going back to 1966, the first column, they're mixed, single figure and double digit. The second column, they're all double digit increases. Yeah, all double digit increases from 80 to 92. Third column, they're all single digit increases, including that -1 in 2000. And up to now, because 2010 can be added on at about 14%, a couple of single digits, but now going solid double digits again. What will it be in the future? Only the US politicians can sort that one out. Here's another chart. Number 5, statutory limits on federal debt. This is the debt ceiling and how and when it's been raised. You can see it's 14 something trillion and needs raising soon. Now, please. But you can see, is that exponential? Is that a hockey stick? It looks horribly like it. Gallup poll. Americans' reaction to raising the debt ceiling. Now, back in May, there's a huge percentage of the people didn't want to raise the debt ceiling, voting against it. 47, nearly half the population didn't want to raise the debt ceiling. It's dropped back to voting against 42%, but it's over 40% do not want to raise the debt ceiling. Incredible when you consider this last chart. This is government receipts and expenditures. Expenditures obviously in red, the big one. You can see the difference. The mouth is open. Something's going to get eaten, and I fear it. I don't know what it's going to be, but look at that difference. And not raise the debt ceiling, it's impossible. Absolutely impossible. Okay, that's the end of it for Friday. It's been a good week, I think. Thanks especially to Richard for putting me back together again and for this wonderful presentation. It's super. Thanks. Bye.